It is Sunday, it's your test. Sivan, and I'm sure you know that your test is Begematria Chave. You know that, right? Your test is Begematria Chave. Chetz Vav Hey is your test, 19. Shem Havaye, B'mili Alfen is Mem Hey, is 45. You take away 19, is 26. That means behind every man is a woman. That's the pshat. And Chave could mean he, Hoysa, Eim, Kol, Choy. And it could also mean Chivya, which is Nochash in Aramish. And that depends on the Chave. It depends on the Chave. Yeah, the Chave is Andish. And I guess it depends on the Adam also, Mr. It depends on both of them. Time is a Chave Sivan. It's Yutes Sivan. Sivan is a Chedesh from Matan Torah. I want to begin with a bit of a talk, an introduction about Chochmah. That's what I want to talk about. I'll tell you what we've done. We started learning about a technique of Beinani. It's a method. The Alter Rebbe is teaching how to be a Beinani. And he's talking dafka to a person who's not very intelligent, not very deep, and not very sensitive. Or he doesn't have all three. He can't learn, he can't meditate, he can't feel. And of course, the Torah says to him, Torah achas to kulanu, and the question is, what is a person that the Ein Leilev Lahav Megdul saying say Baruch Hu? He doesn't have the three necessities, requirements to achieve what's called in the Chabad culture Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem. How is he supposed to achieve Beinani, or she supposed to achieve Beinani? So the Alter Rebbe answers Ava Mesuteres, hidden love. You'll see in the next Pedic, in the next chapter, chapter 19, that this Ava Mesuteres is called Teva. It's a very important word, Teva. You'll learn further, you'll learn it because I'm going to teach it to you, that there's two Tevas in Tanya. In Tanya there's two Tevas. Usually Teva is associated with Klippa. Teva is associated with the animal soul, with the Nefesh Bahamis. And the word Teva means a limitation, a containment. In chapter 19, Teva means the nature of the divine soul. And the Alter Rebbe says, V'Teva Zeh. When you use the word Teva here, it's Shem HaMushal, it's a borrowed name, L'chol Dover, to anything, She'enei Bebechinas Tam V'das. When something cannot be explained, you call it nature. The animal soul's nature you could explain, he's an animal. The divine soul's nature of Mesiras Nefesh, of sacrifice, of self, cannot be explained because it's above reason. So the Alter Rebbe says that if a person cannot be a Beinani in what's called classically the long, short approach, Moyach Shalat Alalev, mind, heart, he can be a Beinani by activating this Teva, the nature that the Eibishter put into the neshama of every Jew. Now, before we get to what the Teva is, and before we get to how to activate this Teva, those are two different questions. Question one, what is the character? What is the nature of this nature? Question two, how do I reveal this nature? This is an elementary question. How do we have it and where does it sit? How do we have it? We answer it. It's a gift from the others. Hashem gave the others. It's not a matana to us, it's a matana to the others. Where does it sit? So there's 2 points that have been dominating the classes, the last 2 classes. The first is the word Kedusha, and the second is the word Chochmah. The reason every Jew has this Teva is because every Jew has Kedusha. Kedusha, as I explained it to you, means inside the Amud, inside the column. I'm not repeating Kedusha, I talked about it not 2 weeks ago, because 2 weeks ago was Eresh Shavuos. 3 Sundays ago we learned about Kedusha. And where does it sit in the Nefesh? It sits in what's called Chochmah. Every Yid has Chochmah, and it sits in the Chochmah. So let's see if we're clear here. The discussion is about Ava Mesuteres, a hidden love. Hidden love is a Teva. It's a nature by a Yid for Mesiras Nefesh, which we're going to be finding out later. How does a Jew have it? Because every Jew has a point of Kedusha. Where the neshama does it sit? It sits in the point of the neshama, which is called Chochmah. So last week I advertised we're going to talk about Chochmah. We did. By the time I was done with Yud Beis Sivan and Tezvav Sivan, geblieben Karge 15 Minuten. There was very little time to actually talk about it. So we have to leave it for today. I a little bit regret the way the class went last week. So today's class, the topic of today's class is Chochmah. Now bear in mind, appreciate, that Chochmah was explained at length in Perek Gimel in chapter 3, which is 5 years ago. In case you don't remember, don't feel bad, I also forgot. We go very slowly here. Okay, so we're going to rediscuss, we're going to relearn the Nekuda of Chochmah. That's what I'm doing. I'm starting the class with a lecture, the speech. And it'll be time we'll read text. If there won't be time, we won't read text. But today we're talking about Chochmah. That's our topic. In Tanya there's a very important word. In Hasidus is a very important word. And the word is koyach. Chof ches. Koyach. Like koyach ma. Koyach. Koyach. Koyach means a strength. Koyach means a potential. But most importantly, in Hasidus now, koyach means a tool. Now I know that in modern Hebrew nobody uses the word koyach as a tool. Everybody uses the word koyach as energy, as power. But in Hasidus, a koyach is a tool. A tool. We all know what tools are. Tools are entities that we use to help us do the things that we need to do. And there are a couple of things you have to know about a tool. Commonsensical things about a tool. Number one, if we didn't have the tools, we couldn't do things. Or to say it differently, if we didn't have the tool, we couldn't do things as perfectly and as exactly as we could with the tools. And the tools have no will. The tools have no bechira. They have no teva. They have no nati. The tools have no interests. They're tools. You put a drill in a box and you never use it, the drill doesn't get depressed. Maybe because the drill state of his whole state is a permanent depression. A diamond, right? Diamond means silent. But tools have no will, no tendency, no interest, no motive. They're tools. You take them out of the box and you use them. The entire attitude and direction of the tool is determined not by the tool itself, but the one holding it. So there are hammers and there's screwdrivers and there's drills and there's wrenches. And then there is a mind and a heart and senses. They're also tools. They're not physical tools. They're ruchnizdike tools. They're not in the world, they're in the nefesh. But they are tools. They're tools. Just like a drill is a tool, a mind is a tool. Just like a drill. I am a balabayas over, I decide if I want to use it. The mind is also a tool. I'm a balabayas over it. If I don't want to use it, I don't use it. And if I choose to use it, I own it. And I determine the direction of the tool, I determine the attitude of the tool, I determine the spirit of the tool, because tools by themselves might as well be silent. Daimim. One of the important things to underscore when talking about koyach and translating them as tools is, number one, I'm a balabaya, so I do whatever I want with it. But there's a very, very important second way of saying it. And this is very, very, very important. I'm in control of it. It never runs away. I'm in control. I control my tools. I can turn them off. I can turn them on. I can turn them this way. I can turn them this way. I am in control. This is very important. A koyach means a tool that I need to help me accomplish what I need to accomplish. The tools by itself have no interest. I'm the balabayas of my tools. And it's never going to happen that I can't use my tool. And it's never going to happen that the tool's going to run away from me. It's never going to happen that I can't reach it. It's mine. I can do whatever I want. And it's never going to happen that the inmates are going to take over the asylum. Tools never take me over. I'm the balabais of my tools. So I guess I'm saying two things. I can always use them, and I can always use them as I want. There's never a time when I say I can't help myself, this tool is out of reach. And there's never a case where I say I can't help myself, the tool has taken over my life.
Why do we feel so that sometimes the thoughts that they don't act with tools?
I'm not sure that thought is a tool. I didn't say that thought is a tool. I said the mind is a tool. The heart is a tool. The senses are tools. The thought, speech, and action are called garments. They're different than tools. But the answer to your question is because we gave them away. We let them take us over. But that's a different discussion. So for example, I have a tool, it's called chesed. It's an emotional tool. It's an emotional tool. In other words, chesed is the tool of allowing myself to feel. If I don't want, I don't feel. If I want, I make myself feel. I choose how I want to feel. I choose in what things I want to feel. And, very, very importantly, this tool that allows me to feel chesed has a secondary effect. That when I feel an emotion of ahava, I do an action of chesed. Those are two separate steps. The tool of the midah of chesed means I have a tool that allows me to feel. And this tool that allows me to feel can then can then be directed into a ma'aseh b'poel. Because I feel this way, I do this thing. Those are the tools. So I choose to turn on my midas ha'ava, to show love, to feel love towards another person, or to feel rachmanis towards another person, and I choose further that because I feel love or compassion, I'm going to do an act of kindness. I'm going to do an act of compassion. That's the touch koyach. I turn it on. If I don't want to feel, I don't feel. If I do want to feel, I do feel. If I want to feel this way, I feel this way. But I feel this way, I feel this way. I'm a balabayas over my tools. I know it's not so simple, but it's still true. Then I have another tool. It's called the mind, the seichel. If I don't want to use my mind, I hate to say it, I can tell you from experience, I don't have to. The brain does not have to be working all the time. Machshava, yeah. Thought is a different story. But seichel, not necessarily. I can think shtusim tag und nacht. But to use my thought, to think intelligent things, this is a choice. And then I choose to use it. So, here's the word. Most of the time, when I am using my mind as a tool, the tool that I'm using is bina. Not chokhmah, not das. We have three, in the tool, the general tool, which is called seichel or moyach, there is chokhmah, bina, v'das. Most of the time, most people are using the tool of bina. The tool of bina is really a processor. That's what it is. It already has information. It needs to process that information and decide how the information is useful. Bina is not creative. Bina is not a machadish. Bina is not curious. And Bina is not intuitive. Bina is not intuitive. Bina is analytical. Bina is departmentalizing. Bina is thorough. Bina wants to take information that is raw and make it useful and personal. So a person who has a cup, an intelligent person, who uses his bina, is starting off with information. They're not starting off with zero information. They're beginning with information. And they're taking their koyat, their tool of bina, they're applying it to that information to come out with a result. The result is, what does information mean? What does this information mean to me? How does this information make me feel? And of course, ultimately, what am I going to do with this information? But that's what most people are doing most of the time. Most of the time when people are using their moyach, they're processing information. When you go to school, and the teacher teaches you, certainly in the lower grades, the teacher tells you what you need to know. You're using your mind to collect it, to organize it, to think about it, to understand it. So you're using your koyach habina from the beginning till the end. That's what happens most of the time, most people.
Where does the information come from?
From your teacher, from somebody else, or from the world, from an observation. There's all kinds of ways this information came to you. But it didn't come from your brain, of course not. It can't come from your brain. That's what the tool that people use all the time. Now there's a very important thing you have to know about this Mr. Bina, or Ms. Bina. Bina is Lashon Nekeva. She's very controlling. The way Bina operates is control. Bina takes information and holds it and says, now behave. Bina tells the information how the information is going to be processed, how the information is going to be stored, how the information is going to be interpreted, how the information is going to be used. I'll stop beating around the bush, okay? Bina is a yesh. The center of Bina is me. I'm in control. I have a tool that allows me to collect data and to process data and to interpret data and use data. But the most important thing in the equation is the Bala Bina, me. I own this information. I am a balabayas of this information. And the word that's used is Yeshus. So the way you would understand Bina psychologically is that when a person is using the tool of Bina, he doesn't take risks. He doesn't allow himself, or she doesn't allow herself to be vulnerable. Because Bina is all about control. Bina is all about, I'm a master over this information. Chassidus would argue further that most people, most of the time, using most of their tools, it's the same principle. I own tools. Just like I own a hammer, I own a mitzvah chesed. Just like I own a hammer, I own mitzvah netzach. Just like I own a hammer, I own keich habina. And even Vadas in some way. And ultimately even Keich HaChochma. But when people use their tools, they're in charge. And they never let the tool become stronger than them, become more important than them. They never allow themselves to feel out of control of their tool. Fakir, the tool is mine, I'm using it as I understand. So when somebody else comes along and says, listen, I disagree with you, I understand different, you have conflict. Why? Because Bina says, this is how my brain works, this is how I control my brain, it's how I make my brain useful to me. When you come along and you interfere with that because you have a different idea or you find fault with my ideas, you're challenging not my Bina, you're challenging me. For me to allow you to challenge me, I have to be such a big Baal Gaiva that I'm not threatened by you. Because if I am threatened by you, I'm going to push back. That's how most of the tools work. With one exception. And the one exception is Chochmah. Let's be clear. Chochmah is a tool. It's mine. I can use it anytime I want. It says, I can use it anytime I want and it never runs away on me. But the very definition of the tool of Chochmah is the tool of surrender. That's what it is. Chochmah is the tool of admitting to yourself, I don't know. Chochmah is the tool of admitting to yourself, I want to go out of I want to let go. I want to stop controlling my mind. Why? Because I don't know. I don't know. If I know the information that I've collected from outside of me, I want to control it. But if I don't know and I want to know, so I use my Bina. I use the tool of Bina, which is predicated on my yesh, on my trust in self, my belief in self, the experience I have, the knowledge I have, and so on and so forth. What happens if no answer comes? My Bina is not going to be any answers. So now I have to use a very different tool. And let's remember again, it's a koyach. Chochmah is a koyach. Ich bin ibedem avalabas. I own it. But the whole concept of the koyach ha-chochmah is to let go. It's the opposite of all the other koyachs. It's the koyach that the Eibush gave me as a person to say I don't know and I want to know, so I'm surrendering. It's a fantastic insight. The whole concept. I read in not a Jewish book, but it's a fact of life. The greatest geniuses in the world, right? Albert Einstein, who was a gewaltige machadish. He was incredibly creative. He created some of the most brilliant inyonim and mada in the last, whatever it is, at this point it's 120 years. Most of his great contributions to science were made when he was relatively young. I think he was born in 1905 and 1915, and after that he was spinning his wheels the rest of his life. He passed away in the 50s. I don't know how old he was. I think he was born in 1881, so in 1905 he was 26, 1915 he was 36. And they write the Fedish. Why? There were questions in science that the physicists before him had. They couldn't answer them. Why couldn't they answer them? Because they were old, and they were experienced, and they were stuck. They were using their Bina, and the root of their Bina is Yesh, and they didn't want to let go. They didn't want to say the tools that we have, and the techniques that we've employed, and the processes that we already know are not enough to solve this problem. We have to start all the way from the beginning. But Einstein was a younger man. He was a young man. He wasn't invested in those theories, so he was able to surrender to new ideas. And then he got old, and he became stuck. And then people came after him, during his lifetime, people took his ideas and advanced them further. Because one of the hardest things in the world for a person to do is to say that I don't know. Not only I don't know, I cannot know. The way I've been thinking until now is a failure. And the thing that's so important to appreciate is that we call it a koyach. It's a tool. The tool of admitting, I don't know, what kind of tool is that? That's like saying a person calling himself a failure. Oh, I'm no good. What kind of, that's nothing, it's depression, it's a midah, it's not helpful. It's nothing. It's not onav, it's shuffle. It's not the humility that came from effort. It's faket. It's in a way it's gaiva. I'm a nothing. It's not an oni. It's a dal. And yet we call it a koyach. Why? Because the koyach ha-chochma comes after being. You're a smart person. You know a lot of information. You see the limitations of information. You see the limitations and the techniques, the tools that you have to process information. I'm not going to solve my problems. The Eibishter gave us a tool that we could let go. Now what happens when you let go? You fly away like a balloon. But that's not what happens. Chassidus argues that when a person uses this koyach, ha-chochma, when a person is able to have a question, and of course the go-to koyach is bina. In computer language, the default position is bina. When I have a problem, I don't know how to solve it, I go to what I know already. It's human nature. What techniques have I used until now in my life? What methods have I used until in my life? I say, okay, I have a problem. Let me see if I can solve it using the existing techniques, using tools that I have ad achshav, until now. All of that is bina. When that all fails me, so then I have to admit that I don't know. And this admission that I don't know is called a koyach. Why? Because it opens me up to the nefesh, or to the neshama. We have a neshama. We also have a nefesh habahamis. We have a koyach ha-chochma of kedusha, we have a koyach ha-chochma of klipa. They both are separate koyches, which is a discussion. That's not for this at the moment. It's not that important. And in the neshama there is all knowledge. The neshama of a person knows everything. The neshama of a person is a reservoir of theoretical infinite knowledge, or actual infinite knowledge, whatever madrigas you want to discuss. But the neshama doesn't speak English. The neshama does not speak the language of my yesh, of my bina, of my understanding. And so long as I'm using my koyach habina, in other words, as long as I'm considering the center of my efforts to know me. Me doesn't mean the whole me. Me means the conscious me. Me means the me that I know. The unknown me, the subconscious me, is pushed aside. So the Eibishter gave me a tool where I say I don't know, teach me. But I don't say I don't know, teach me, sit in the classroom in front of a teacher. I say I don't know and I sit in no place. And I'm frustrated, I agonize. There's a lot of pain in it. And there's a process by which the subconscious of the neshama gives me new information. Now the kids who go to school call this new information Borak HaMavrik, the flash of light. In Kabbalah it's called Yesoid Abba. In Chassidus it's called Nekudas HaSkola, the Pintele von Seich, the point of idea. The seminal point of an idea, that's what it's called. But you see, what the kids in Cheder don't appreciate is that the flash of light that comes from subconscious to the consciousness, that's not Chokhmah. That's the reward for Chokhmah. What is Chokhmah? Chokhmah is surrender. Chokhmah is letting go. Chokhmah is the koyach that the Eibishter gave me to open myself up to my neshama by admitting to myself that I don't know. And it's a tool. It's a tool. It's not depression. A person who's never learned anything in his life, who says, I'm stupid, that's nothing. But if a person spent his entire life learning, and he comes to an impasse, and it hurts him, and he says, basically the Gemara says that Abzeda fasted 100 fasts, when he went from Bava to Yisro, because he couldn't understand Talmud Yerushalmi. And he wanted to understand, so he fasted 40 fasts or 100 fasts. Lishkech Talmud Bavlish, forget the Talmud Bavlish, forget to learn Talmud Yerushalmi. So right away your question becomes, it says in Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, Rak Yishom Elecho, Shmei, Navshacham Eid, Pentishka Achas Tadvar, it's a Issa, the Reise, it's a Issa for Misa Nachman of the time, to allow yourself to forget Divrei Torah. How could Abzeda make himself forget? It's not allowed. The Torah, Abzeda wasn't forgetting Torah, and Abzeda was forgetting Bina. The way he understood the Torah. Because he wanted to learn Torah in a new way. And the only way to have the new way is to let go of the old way. That's called a koyach. It's a tool of letting go. This is Chokhmah. Chokhmah is the ability to let go of what I have so something new could come. Where's it going to come from? From the neshama. It doesn't come from no place. It doesn't come from the world. It comes from the neshama. If it comes from the world, it goes straight to Bina. It skips Chokhmah. But if the world can't give me the information, Mipnei Siba, there's various reasons why, so I have to get the information from outside of the world. It comes from the neshama. The Eibusher puts in the neshama all knowledge, all wisdom. Ideas don't come from things. Things come from ideas. That's what we believe. From the neshama. Before there was Gashmis, there was Ruchnius. And the neshama knows the source of these ideas, of these things. And the neshama wants to teach me, but the neshama doesn't speak my language. I speak the language of Bina, which is basically Yesh. Me. Control. And Chokhmah is only available when I let go. It's the Kayach HaChokhmah. So appreciate what Chokhmah is. The way I teach it. There's an action and a reaction. There's a pro-action and a reaction. The action of Chokhmah is getting rid of my old system of learning. The action of Chokhmah is frustration. The action of Chokhmah is telling myself, not only I don't know, I'm not going to figure it out. The schar, the reward, the effect of that effort is a flash, is a barak hamavrik. There's nekudas haskola. If you say it, Abba, you don't create the flash comes to you. You hear the flash, you open yourself up to the flash, you make yourself exposed to be able to gain from that flash through your frustration. Then the Hebrew word for that is bittul. So the act of Chokhmah is the act of letting go. The reward for Chokhmah is oid, is an ein safe. It verstanden, yeah, I think that wasn't so, I think it was rather straightforward. I can't hear you. Yeah, okay. That's what's called koyach ma. I can't hear you.
What's that?
No, don't do this to me. Das is to think about one thing at a time. This is what's called koyach ma. It's the tool, koyach, the tool of bittul. What kind of tool is bittul? Because before bittul there's yesh. And you're supposed to be a yesh. You can't lay up by shalom. You can't learn Torah if you don't think you're smart. But you reach an impasse. You got to a point I can't go any further because of the information that I have. And the darkei alimut that I have do not allow me to cross from here to here. So you have a koyach, a tool, which I am a balaboso of ma, of surrender. And the koyach ma opens me up to a baruch hamav, to a lichtikai, to a shine.
So is this this flash? Is this talking about like in learning Torah?
It's in anything.
Is it talking in life situation?
Or anything.
Anything.
Yeah. In other words, you have an nefesh kiss. You have a nefesh sichlis, which I never talk about, but I'll mention it today because I'm learning a maimed about nefesh sichlis. If you come to the Friday, I teach maimed online. Every Friday, I give a class. This next Friday is a class on nefesh sichlis. If you want an update, I don't know how much I'm going to talk about it, but this is a maimed chovav adam. I habe schon gegeben zugereden. But it's a nefesh b'hamis, nefesh sichlis, nefesh kiss. They all have chokhmah. They all have the ability to recognize the limitations of their mind and to surrender to get new information from the subconscious to the consciousness. But the Nefesh HaBahamis is interested in physical things. Nefesh HaLekis is interested in divine things. But the system is the same. There's a tool, a koyach, which is I'm a balabas over it, that allows me to let go of my balabatishkeit. Not for nothing, not to be depressed, not to be hefkid. Because this allows the neshama to give me something that the neshama cannot give me because my yesh, my former ego, stands in the way. Now, on the basis of this insight, comes the following idea. Chassidus says we have many tools, many koichos. All of these tools operate on the basis of yesh. All of these tools are connected to myself, to my self-identity, to my limitations. When I'm using koyach ha'bino, or koyach ha'chesed, or koyach ha'netzach, or even koyach ha'malchus, when I'm using these tools, I control it and I limit it based on the limitations that I have. It's predicated on me. Koyach ha'chochma is the only tool that its foundation is bittul, letting go of self. So now comes an interesting argument. Bina. Bina has a bunch of words. You know, the Bina has a bunch of words. There's hasaga, there's iyun, there's havchana, there's havana. One of the many, many words for bina is tfisa. Leis machshava tfisa be. Tfisa. Tfisa means to hold. To hold. I'm holding this book. If this book was 4 feet across or 5 feet across, I couldn't get my hands around it. The criteria of tfisa is that I'm able to hold it. Tfisa means ktsavis. That's how it's explained. Bregen, you cannot hold something that has no edges. This bench, I cannot hold this bench on both ends. I can hold the width of the bench. Why? Because the reach of my hands is within the area of the width of the bench. But the length of the bench, what is this, 10 feet, 12 feet? I can't stretch my hands. There's no way I can hold it. It's not shaykh. Why? My grasp is smaller than the length of the bench. Ideas are the same thing. A person can hold an idea if it fits into the hands of his mind. Every person has different size. Bigger people have bigger hands. Smaller people have smaller hands. But the biggest person uses Keich Habina. After all, there's a Medina Magbal, a limit. If I am getting an idea by holding it, that idea has to have a k'tzei. For one person, it's a smaller k'tzei. For a bigger person, it's a bigger k'tzei. For the Rebbe, it's gor agreis k'tzei. Aber a k'tzei. If it's a Keich Habina, it has to have edges, bregen, borders, which you're holding it. In other words, since the other tools are predicated on yesh, they have to be gvul. They operate, the correct psychological term is by controlling what they're doing. Control is a good thing, but control is a terrible thing. Ask your kids, they'll explain it to you. Punktly well. Control is necessary. Too much control in the wrong way with the wrong emotion is not good. All of the klala human being, every creation, but specifically human being wants to control his environment. You build a house, you move in. You want the house to be the way you want it, not the way somebody else wants it. Your house. I'm the balabasta. It's control. Except chokhmah. Chokhmah is not trying to be teifis. It's not trying to hold. Because it can't hold. It's trying to let go. And last week, at the end of the class, as we were running out, I gave you a Dvar Teira that's a mushal for this. And I'm going back to it now. What was the Dvar Teira that I gave you? What was the Dvar Teira that I gave you? The Rebbe says in the Rishimis. And I believe that it's in a Sikh also, but it's in the Rebbe's Rishimis Zicher. In other words, before the Nesias, the Rebbe wrote this. That the Mishnah says in the end of Shas. At the end of Shas, it says, Loi mata kod Omer Bishua ben Levi. Loi mata kadosh baruch hu kli machzik bracha li Yisrael ela hashalom shenema Hashem oiz la'ama yitin Hashem yivarach hashalom hashalom. That's the end of Shas Mishnah. Loi mata kadosh baruch hu. Hashem could not find keli machzik bracha Yisrael, a keli that can hold the bracha the Eibush that wants to give the Jewish people ela only shalom shenema Hashem oiz and Hashem, and of course ain't Teira, ain't Shalom ala Teira, but this is not about Teira, this is about Kli Machzik Bracha. Hashem wants to give us brachas. If he gives us a bracha, there's no point in giving a bracha if we don't make a keli for it. There's a keli for this bracha. Maybe says there's no keli for the bracha except for Shalom. Lei Mata Kodesh Baruch Hu, Kli Machzik Bracha Yisrael, Ela Shalom. So the Rebbe asks a simple kasha. It's a classic question that can be asked in many sugyas in Shas. Why the double negative? Why can it say Mata Kodesh Baruch Hu Kli Machzik Bracha Yisrael V'Hu HaShalom? What do you mean Loi Mata Ella? He didn't. It's like Yiddish. Nish Faran, none of it then. You don't speak in double negatives in Hebrew. So why did it say there's no keli for bracha for shalom, for bracha that can hold the bracha except for shalom? Say the Eibush found the kli which can hold the bracha of Yidden, and that is shalom. And the Rebbe said like all the keteretz, because the bracha that the Eibush gives us is infinite. Period. There is no keli that can hold the bracha that the Eibush gives us. You know why? Because the keli means tfisa. Tfisa means ktsavis. Ktsavis means gvul. The bracha that the Eibush gives Yidden is bli gvul. If Hashem gives you an infinite bracha, you have nothing from it. Why? There's no keli. Ela shalom. You understand? Stop! There is no keli that can hold the bracha the Eibush gave Yidden, because the bracha that the Eibush gave Yidden is bli gvul. So what's the teyelis? The teretz is shalom. What is shalom? Peace. What is peace? Getting along with your neighbor. No, what do you need to get along with your neighbor, or your husband, or your children, or your parents, or your co-workers, or who knows what? The person sitting next to you in shul. You resolve your differences with another person by giving in, by letting go, by not controlling. So the Mishnah has to say a double negative, because the Mishnah is not only talking about the keli, the Mishnah is talking about the bracha. The Mishnah wants us to know that the bracha that the Eibush is giving Yidden is bligavul. So it speaks in a double negative. There is no keli for this bracha, because the bracha is bligavul. But there is a keli for this bracha. And shalom. How could shalom be a keli for this bracha if there is no keli for this bracha? Because the keli of shalom is the keli of non-keli. It's the keli of bittul. And that's chokhmah. Chokhmah is a tool. It's mine. That allows me to let go of me. To open myself up to my neshama. So Chassidus makes an assertion, which it's hard to understand. The emes is it's hard to understand. But on the other hand, this is the truth. And a little bit we could understand. Where is God? God is in Chokhmah. You have in Tanya Perich Hafein Lamed Hein Da'agah. Hu levade hu v'yein zu losei v'zui madreges ha-Chokhmah. You want to know what the Eibishter is? In Chokhmah. Wait a minute. If the Eibishter is infinite, how could he fit into Chokhmah? The answer is because Chokhmah doesn't try to hold it. Chokhmah doesn't try to control it. Bina does. Chokhmah lets go. And because Chokhmah surrendered, Chokhmah lets go, the Ein Seif rests in Chokhmah because Chokhmah is not holding it. Chokhmah is open. To use a psychological, Chokhmah is making itself vulnerable to it. So Shalom is a kli because Shalom is the keli of not keli. And because it's the keli of not keli, Ein Seif can rest there. And the same is true in Chokhmah. Chokhmah is a kli for Ein Seif because Chokhmah is the kli of not kli. So all over Chassidus and all over Kabbalah, where is Ein Seif? The answer is in Chokhmah. And that's what Alter Rebbe says here in our Pedic. We're talking about this teva, how I started today's class. It's the teva of the nefesh elokis. It's the so-called nature of the divine soul, which the Alter Rebbe asserted. Next Pedic, we'll see it inside. It's l'maylam and avon of asov. The teva zeh. It's called over. This teva is by definition beyond understanding. And where does this teva? So every yid has this teva, because every yid has kedusha. And because every yid has kedusha, the shaykhs to this teva. Where is the kedusha? Where does this teva find itself? It finds itself in chokhmah, because chokhmah is a keli for something which a keli cannot hold. Chokhmah is a keli for Ein Seif, for bligavul. So we have Ava Misoteres, a hidden love, which we're going to talk about later. First of all, we have it. Yerushalayim Aviseinu. It's not a gift to us; it's a gift to the others. How do we have it? Because every single yid has kedusha. Me'echad, me'adat misvides, ha'yenes, shaba'ar, be'elu, me'esatzilus, b'riya, tzira, asiyah. One yid is from Chokhmah, another yid is from Bina, another yid is from Chesed, another yid is from Malchus, one yid is from Atzilus, and one yid is from B'riya, another yid is from Yetzira, another from Asiyah. It doesn't make any difference because it's kedusha. And because it's kedusha, there's no separation between a world and a world and a level and a level. Where in the nefesh does it rest? It rests in Chokhmah. Go ahead.
Asking if most of our day we're in Bina, and Bina is Yeshus. So Bina, Hashem is not in Bina. If you're saying that Hashem is not in Bina, so most of the day we're acting with Bina, with Hashem. If the right way to act is Chokhmah.
I didn't say the right way to act is Chokhmah. I didn't say that. You said that.
The yeshus, we shouldn't act with yeshus.
You have to act with yeshus. One second. You have children. You'll have children. Yeah. Are you going to assert yourself as a mother, or are you going to be bottled as a mother? Are you going to make them listen to you, or are you going to say I'm bittul?
Right.
Yeah, but yeshus is a bad thing.
You need to know how to act with yeshus.
Okay, so there's your answer. There's your answer. No? Whatever you're telling me, I'm answering you.
No, that you face that.
You don't live your life on a level of chokhmah. It's like being shikir. You drink a little wine once in a while. Chokhmah is a matone. You have to ask questions. You have to try to understand within your limitations when you run into trouble. So you ask Chokhmah to help you. But you don't live on a level of Chokhmah. It's impossible. Unless you're Chveis Ver. Achi Ashiloini. Arizal lived in the Madrega of Chokhmah. Could we learn inside now? Let's learn inside. I want you to see, as a steht innovated. You understand? It's written inside. So where are we going to start? We're still on the same page, which is page Chav Gimel on Beis. That means 46, yeah, page 46. Okay? So we're going to read it again. Va'al kol ponim. How many lines from the bottom is it? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 lines from the bottom. You see it? Va'al kol ponim. Yes? Am I right? We read this already twice. Now we're reading it the third time. But the good news is that after today, we're not going to read it a fourth time. Va'al kol ponim at the very least. Afilu l'kal shebakal peish Yisrael. The most careless, the most ichpati, lack of feeling, yid, and the most sinful yid. Nimshach bezivugam, in their blend, in their mix of their mahus, of their character, and the neshama is arrangemish. Nefesh, the malchus asiya, at least nefesh of malchus asiya. Shehi madrega tachtenu, which is lowest level. What is the next world? The holiness of Asiyah. Now we're not talking about Kedusha today. Kedusha was the class I gave 2 classes ago, 3 Sundays ago. Nevertheless, since every Yid has a point of his neshama from some world and from some sfira that's Kodesh, so you should know first of all Ikula Mikula. The way I explained you the mashal of being inside the column, that there's no separation between a world and a world, there's no separation between Asiyah and Atzilus and Ein Sof, it's all one. Gam, what's the next word? Mechachma da Asiyah. In Asiyah there's Chachma. Wherever you are in Asiyah, you come to the Chachma of Asiyah. Shebetecha melubeshes, and in Chachma of Asiyah you have Chachma, the Malchus Atzilus. Chachma, Malchus Atzilus. Shebetecha, Chachma, the Atzilus. And inside Chachma of Malchus of Atzilus, the Chachma Atzilus, next word, Shabbat Meir Ein Sof Baruch Mamish. And in Chachma Atzilus you have Get L'Chad, to himself. Why? Because Chachma is the tool of getting past self. All Chachmas are connected. All Sfiras are connected. All Kedusha is connected. And Sof, Kol Sof, every Yid has Chachma. And the Chachma that the Yid has is connected to the first Chachma, which is Chachma of Atzilus. And the Chachma of Atzilus is infinity. How could you put infinity into a Keli? The answer is Shalom. The answer is Chachma, because Chachma is a unique tool. Kediksiv azay shet and pasuk. Hashem b'Chachma. The Eibishter enters into Chachma. And using Chachma, Yossi, he creates the foundation of the world. How does Hashem and Chachma come together? Because Chachma is a Kli. Lei motza kodesh baruch hu. Kli machzik bracha lebriya se'elam is ela ha-Chachma. Yeah, kamei shekasav kulham b'Chachma zis. You see the next words. The Eibishter makes the world through Chachma. What does that mean? Hashem doesn't create the world through Chachma. He creates the world by Sadat, Varam, Barak, and Barak. The Eibishter creates the world through 10 things. But the beginning of the meeting between Eibishter and the world is Chachma, because Chachma can hold Ein Sof. V'nimtza, as a result, ki Ein Sof Baruch Hu, that the Ein Sof, the whole Eibishter, the ganze Eibishter, Ein Sof, Melubash is revealed, is present, the Bechinas Chachma shebenefesh Adam. In the Chachma of the Yiddish Neshama, Yihye mi sheyihye mi Yisrael. It makes no difference which Jew it is. You're a Yid, you have Chachma. Inside your Chachma you have Ein Sof. This is called Pinta Yid. This is called Ava Misuteres. This is called Teva, which is L'mayla Mitan Vadas. How does it enter into a finite person? There's a place in a person where finitude and infinity converge, where they come together, and that place is called Chachma. Then the Rebbe continues. And this aspect of Chachma, Sheba, which is in the Neshama. Im Ein Sof Baruch Hu Amelubish Ba, with the Ein Sof which is inside this Chachma, Mispashetet B'chol Bechinas HaNefesh Kula, affects the whole Neshama. My Bina is changed by my Chachma, my Chesed is changed by my Chachma, my Netzach is changed by my Chachma, my hands and my feet are changed by my Chachma, my fingers and toes are changed by my Chachma, my hair, skin and nails, the whole person is affected by Chachma. Chachma is here, the right side of the brain. And Chochmah is a kli for Ein Seif. So first of all, how does Ein Seif meet a person Chochmah? And second of all, once Ein Seif meets the person Chochmah, it's maspashetet b'chala guf kulei. The whole person. La'achayesa, to give it life, and of course it means to give it life in the madrega which is called Ein Seif. Mi bechinas tereisha, from the level of the head, the bechinas target, the level of the feet, kidiksiv, as the pasuk says, ha-chochma techaya ba'aleh. This is two different quotes, right? One is Hashem b'chochma, the Eibush goes into chochma, and the second is ha-chochma techaya ba'aleh. Chochma has a host. Who owns chochma? I do. Chochma is a Baal. And the Baal of Chochmah is the Baal Abayis of the Chochmah, because Chochmah is a tool, like any other Keich is a tool. But the tool of Chochmah is a Kayach that allows me to Shachar that ain't safe. I'm a finite person, and I'm a Baal Abayis over a tool, which brings to me ain't safe. Ha-Chochmah techayech, Chochmah gives life to its owner. There's more in Chochmah than in the Baal, but the Baal is a Baal Abayis of Chochmah. And therefore the Baal benefits from having Chochmah, that because there's Chochmah, the Eibishter gave him a tool of Chochmah, the Ein Seif rests in a tool of Chochmah, and it gives life to the whole Baal, not just to the Chochmah, but to the hands, and to the feet, and to the fingers, and to the toes, and to the hair, and to the skin, and to the nail. Try. Now, we're going to stop. Okay, we're still in the middle of a conversation. I am making for myself a tentative mark. We'll see what's going to happen next Sunday, but the Revaile, we're stopping. Okay, it was a pretty Mesudadik class, I think, I hope. Questions or comments?
I hear it, but I cannot teach it to somebody else or teach it to somebody else.
I'm sorry.
I said, I heard what was being said, but I don't grasp it because I feel like I never tell it over.
So just repeat the Rebbe's word from the Mishnah. Why the double negative? Because the bracha is believable and the keli is bittul. That becomes a very easy way to present it. That's how I taught it. It's such a helpful tool. It's an easy. The pshat in the Mishnah is it's in the words. It's mamish in the words. Nishtazei.
It's a question of internalizing.
Deadheaded. Yeah.
What does it really mean to me as a person?
I agree. Masking. Okay, we'll stop now, yes? Sugazam, thank you for coming.